Hey everyone, so every Tuesday a new featured location releases and is live for 48 hours, and so it'll end late Thursday night on November 24th. And so this week's location is called Vibranium Mines. Its effect is whenever you play a card here, shuffle 3 Vibranium into your deck. Vibranium is a 1 mana 4 power card, with the ongoing effect that says it cannot be destroyed. Also, these locations have a 40% increased chance to appear in your games, meaning you will see them quite often obviously, and so I wanted to think of ways to take advantage of it. So my go-to idea as soon as I saw this location was Spectrum. I use Spectrum a lot on my way through Pool 1 and 2, and even when I started Pool 3. And since all the Vibranium have an ongoing effect, it just seemed perfect, since she'll buff them all by 2. Now, a card I don't have yet, but would obviously make the deck a lot better, would be Wong. Wong has an ongoing effect as well, where your on-reveal abilities at the location happen twice. And so Spectrum would add +4 onto all your cards, including the Vibranium instead of just the regular 2. And then so Mystique would be another good addition to the deck. It copies the ongoing ability of the last card you played, and so if you use this effect after Wong, Mystique copies the Wong, and then Spectrum would activate 4 times, giving everything +8. And so Goose makes a lot of sense to me in this deck. It makes it so that nobody can play cards that cost 4, 5, or 6, and that should benefit you way more than it benefits your opponent, since you're the one going to want to be playing into Vibranium Mines and having a lot of 1 mana 4 attack Vibranium that'll get buffed even more later. And so I feel like Goose might give you a free win at one location if you just fill it with a bunch of cheap cards and then buff them later with Spectrum. Oh, and I probably should have started off with this card since it's probably the best, and that card is Quinjet. Quinjet is ongoing as well, and then it makes it so cards that didn't start in your deck cost 1 less. So every Vibranium that you draw will cost 0. I imagine like hiding all the Vibranium in your hand until the last round, and then on turn 6 playing as many Vibranium as you can along with Spectrum for like a crazy surprise play, and it could probably result in a lot of like snap wins. And so the rest of the deck is pretty simple, just a bunch of good ongoing cards. Mojo probably isn't like super essential, but I think if you have it, it definitely makes sense. It of course has ongoing, but if both players have 4 cards of this location, which again, you're gonna fill that condition like perfectly easy, then it actually gets +6 power, so that's like an insane rate for a 2-drop if you can like fulfill the requirements. Because of how important I think Quinjet will be, you probably want to armor on the same lane as Quinjet, I'd imagine, because there's multiple ways to kill 1-drops in the game, and you probably want to keep it alive, probably with Ant-Man as well. And so unfortunately I don't have all the cards myself to be able to play this, but it does look really fun to me. If you don't have like Mystique and Wong, probably even Quinjet, the deck probably isn't that strong, but you could just run like some generic Spectrum deck like this. And if you do have a couple of the Pool 3 pieces, maybe put them in. Also, Claw might potentially be better than Blue Marvel here. Yeah, this still might be a good way to take advantage of all the Vibranium, even if you don't have a bunch of Pool 3 cards. And so this is honestly very similar to the other deck. The main difference between the deck is that instead of Spectrum we run Onslaught. It doubles the other ongoing effects of the location, making things like Captain America better, or like Ant-Man. Mojo would go absolutely insane as well, getting +12. And then Blue Marvel or Claw getting doubled is really strong. And then of course if you end up putting Iron Man and Onslaught into the same lane, you almost guarantee win that lane. And so just Iron Man and Onslaught together make 28 power. I feel like in general, all these decks are probably going to want Quinjet just to make the Vibranium cost 0. Enchantress is scary to most ongoing decks. The only good news is that this deck can probably run Cosmo more than the other one, since we don't have as many on-reveal cards. And so this won't really ever hinder us, it'll only hinder our opponent and protect us. So I think the strategy for this one would be very similar to the other one, where you just goose a lane and you play out like cheap things like Ant-Man or like the Vibranium obviously preferably, Mojo if they're contesting you. And then Onslaught should win you the other lane, especially if you have Iron Man. And so if you didn't have any of the Pool 3 cards, the deck would obviously be weaker. But this might still be like a decent option to play sort of like a Vibranium Zoo deck. And so the final deck I wanted to try was Cerebro 4. I recently opened Cerebro and Mystique, and so this popped into my head. But I didn't know if there was enough 4 power cards that were good, and honestly there really isn't. The cards that have 4 power are like Ant-Man if you fill out the whole lane, Medusa if you play it in the middle, Pauline but it discards a card, Cloak works and honestly it might let you set up some good plays. We got Cyclops, and then I also recently opened this Crystal card, and it looked like so bad when I opened it. I was pretty disappointed. And it's probably Copium, but like if there's any deck this actually could work in, it's probably this one, I'd hope. On reveal, this is at the middle location. You shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 3. And so if you have Vibranium in your deck and you play as much cards as you can down, then once you play this, you'll end up probably drawing the Vibranium. And as long as when you play this down you have less than 3 cards in your hand, it will be technically a benefit. Then Claw is actually a pretty strong 4 power unit. And then we have Moon Girl. So Moon Girl actually like made me think that maybe there's actually a chance this deck is okay. Because of course we're going to be running Quinjet, so all of our Vibranium are free. And so Moon Girl gets buffed by Cerebro, but also duplicates your hand. So if you have a bunch of like 0 mana Vibranium in your hand, I think Moon Girl will be really strong to just like go like hella wide. And then I literally couldn't find another 4 power unit that was good. And so the best thing that you could probably play is probably Magic. You can't play this on turn 6, but on reveal you change this location to Limbo, which makes it so there's 7 turns in a game. So this like gives you some extra draw to draw into those Vibranium, extra turns to draw your combo piece of like Cerebro and then Mystique copying Cerebro. And so honestly I probably have a bit more faith in the other 2 decks, but hopefully this surprises me. And so lastly I just want to throw out some honorable mentions that might be beneficial into the location. The first one would be Adam Warlock. And so this card is normally not good at all, but at the end of each turn if you are winning this location you draw a card. And so the extra draw would be really nice if you're trying to get as much Vibranium as possible. But he has 0 power, making it pretty hard to actually win the location, to actually get his effect. The one caveat to that though is that you might actually be playing this in the mines, and unless your opponent is building a deck to capitalize on the mines as well, they probably don't want to play into it and get a bunch of junk in their deck. And so you might have an easier time actually winning this location if you play into the mines, making you draw more Vibranium. And then so Akoya would be another consideration. I believe when you play this, the Vibranium goes in your deck before the effect happens, and then so you'd give all the Vibranium in your deck plus 1 power. I haven't like tested this, but I'd be really shocked if it didn't work this way, especially because it's like the same theme as this whole like Wakandan event. And so the last card to probably consider would be Destroyer. I haven't unlocked this card yet, but it's obviously a super strong card, you've probably witnessed it. It has an insane amount of power, but it has the downside of on reveal destroy your other cards. And so it might make sense to just get a bunch of 4 power cards that can't be destroyed with this effect, especially if you throw in a Quinjet to make them 0 cost. Yeah, I think that's all I got for today. But there's got to be more ways to take advantage of this location, and so if you have any awesome ideas, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. I think that's it for me though. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. I plan on making a lot more Marvel Snap content in addition to my regular Runeterra content. And yeah, thank you for watching.